Hi, my name is Fleming, and it's an absolute pleasure to be able to speak to you today on behalf of the Young Talent Network. Groups like the Young Talent Network are essential in supporting and harnessing our city's talent of the future, and it's an honour to be part of this. I wanted to speak to you today about something that I'd never heard of until recently, and something that many of us may find surprising to hear, that not only it exists, but the detrimental effect it can have not only on our productivity, but on our mental health. I wanted to talk to you about imposter syndrome. So what is imposter syndrome? Well, it refers to an internal experience of believing that you are not as competent as others perceive you to be. While the definition is usually narrowly applied to intelligence and achievement, it has links to perfectionism and social context. What makes it more interesting is it appears in some of the most successful entrepreneurs, business people, and sporting professionals, and it's more common in women than in men. Before I delve in and tell you about my experience with imposter syndrome, let me tell you a bit about me and some of my achievements. It's well reported that my journey wasn't the easiest, often compared to driving from Hull to Paris via Russia. I was raised in a council estate, which incidentally was a great upbringing, but then found myself a single mum of two by the age of 20, having fallen pregnant with my eldest daughter at the age of just 17 years old. Struggling to make ends meet and often having to rob Peter to pay Paul, I knew I had drive and I knew I had determination, and I knew I wanted to work in business. A big ask for someone who left school with just 2 GCSEs. Anyways, after taking a few jobs on, I entered the world of recruitment at the age of 27. I'd finally found something I loved and something that gave me more financial freedom and opportunity. It was 9 years later, however, in my mid-30s, that I opened my own recruitment business and ran this successfully for almost a decade. During this decade, we placed thousands of people into employment, supported apprentices in our business, provided financial support to local charities, and had a strong focus on helping the local community as much as we could. We would give talks in schools and colleges, often mentoring to young people who also were starting to look and work on their own entrepreneurial journey. In subsequent years, my story was picked up by local and national press, and I went on to win the Women in Business Awards in 2018. And I was a finalist in the Great British Entrepreneurial Awards and Hull Daily Mail Business Awards. In 2020, I was named one of the area's most influential businesswomen, and in 2021, named as one of the area's top 20 business leaders. I'd also opened Hull's first niche dedicated IT recruitment business back in 2016 and founded the hugely popular People in Business Awards, which became the area's second largest awards ceremony in its inaugural year. In 2021, I was also invited to sit on the steering group for the Humber Business Week and became an entrepreneur in residence at the University of Hull. However, at the start of the pandemic, my first business folded, which was a huge blow to me and will always be the hardest thing that I've ever had to encounter in business. The feeling of failure and the feeling of shame and the feeling that I'd let people down has stayed with me still to this day. Just 2 years on, my confidence took a huge blow and I suddenly found myself questioning every decision I made, unable to focus and carrying this huge feeling of failure around with me. The success we had in those 10 years had been superseded by failure, and the motivation to start anything new just wasn't there due to the fear of failing once again. In meetings, I would be quiet and I lacked the confidence to voice my opinion for fear of being laughed at. When asked to do speaking engagements or on receiving press inquiries, I would politely decline because I just thought, why would anyone want to hear what I've got to say? I'm a failure. Go and ask somebody else. At one point, I even asked my husband how to use a tin opener. The feeling of worthlessness had well and truly taken over. It's in times like this we have to be more self-aware and learn how to overcome these setbacks. But it was here that imposter syndrome raised its ugly head and took a hold. It became so bad, I was asking even the most trivial questions once I clearly knew the answers to, but I questioned every decision I was making by this point. Something had to change, and it had to change fast. So I read, and I researched, I listened to podcasts, YouTube, and I knew I was displaying all the symptoms of imposter syndrome. Things like the inability to realistically assess your competence and your skills, attributing your success to external factors, berating your performance, fear that you won't live up to expectations, sabotaging your own success, and self-doubt. You see, once you have identified imposter syndrome and you know how to overcome it, it's only then that you can start to take practical steps to move on. Some of these steps are: break the silence. Shame keeps a lot of people from fessing up about their fraudulent feelings. Knowing there's a name for these feelings and that you are not alone can be tremendously freeing. Separate feelings from facts. There are times you will feel stupid. It happens to everyone from time to time. Realise that just because you may feel stupid, it really doesn't mean that you are. Recognise when you should feel fraudulent. A sense of belonging fosters confidence. If you're the only one out of a few people in the meeting, a classroom, field or workplace who look or sound like you, or are much older or younger, it's only natural. You sometimes feel like you don't always fit in. That's fine. Accentuate the positive. The good news is being a perfectionist means you care deeply about the quality of your work. The key is to continue to strive for excellence when it matters most, but don't persevere over routine tasks and forgive yourself when the inevitable mistakes happen. Develop a healthy response to failure and mistake making. Henry Ford once said, failure is only the opportunity to begin again more intelligently. Instead of beating yourself up for failing, do what players on the losing sport team do and glean the value from the loss and move on, reminding yourself, I'll go get them next time. Write the rules. If you've been operating under misguided rules like, I should always know the answer or never ask for help, start asserting your rights. Recognise that you have just as much right as the next person to be wrong. Have an off day or ask for assistance. Develop a new script. Become consciously aware of the conversation going on in your head when you're in a situation that triggers your imposter feelings. This is your internal script. Then instead of thinking, wait till I find out I have no idea what I'm doing, tell yourself, everyone who starts something new feels off base in the beginning. I may not know all the answers, but I'm smart enough to find them out. Go for this approach instead of looking around the room and thinking, oh my God, everyone here is brilliant and I'm not. Go with instead, wow, everyone here is brilliant and I'm really going to learn a lot. Visualize success. Do what professional athletes do. Spend time beforehand picturing yourself making a successful presentation or calmly posing your question in class. It showbiz picturing impending disaster and will help with performance-related stress. Reward yourself. Break the cycle of continually seeking and then dismissing validation outside of yourself by learning to pat yourself on the back. Fake it till you make it. Now and then we all have to fly by the seat of our pants. Instead of considering winging it as proof of our ineptness, learn to do what many high achievers do and view it as a skill. The point of the worn-out phase, fake it till you make it, still stands. Don't wait until you feel confident to start putting yourself out there. Courage comes from taking risks. Change your behaviour first and allow your confidence to build. So if you're displaying any of the effects of imposter syndrome, teach yourself how to recognise and how to overcome it. Be aware that this will take time and it may rear up again from time to time, but understanding it is the only way we can overcome it. For me, I've been on a real journey, like many have during the pandemic, but my focus is clear and strongly back on success. I know what I've achieved to date is just a start, and I now know how to talk myself out of negative beliefs. I really hope you found this useful. Keep surrounding yourself with people who have a positive influence on you and those who you gain inspiration from. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you, and I wish everybody at the Young Talent Network great success.